My name is Jacob Kushner. I'm a U.S. freelance journalist who writes about global migration and violence against immigrants around the world. And I was a fellow in Freiburg with the Max Planck Institute in 2022 because I was researching a book about the National Socialist Underground, the NSU, which spent the 2000s murdering and bombing immigrants all across Germany. So I've been working as an international correspondent for a long time. And so I was based in East Africa for many years. And I spent a lot of time investigating attacks against LGBTQ refugees in East Africa, people fleeing countries like Uganda because of their sexual orientation. But then during the start of the so-called refugee crisis, I started seeing in the news about attacks against immigrants in Germany. And so I started going to Germany on short assignments to investigate attacks in different towns across Germany, these different towns where there had been, people had burned down asylum shelters or attacked immigrants or that sort of thing. And I was doing that reporting when I heard about and discovered the NSU, which of course was already big news in Germany at that time. It was just coming out what had happened. And so basically, over time, I started spending more and more time in Germany and investigating the NSU case. And when I heard about the opportunity to spend a couple months at the Institute in Freiburg, I leapt at it because I just knew that the library there would have so many resources of all sorts of books and cases and things that have been written up on that very, very well-known case. Came for the books and the resources, but stayed for the people, I suppose. It was just incredible. I hadn't really thought about how many incredible researchers I would meet, people with such an expertise in German criminal law. It's sometimes you don't really know what you need as a journalist until you find it, and when you find a library full of books, more documents and books than you could have imagined. And you find a building, full of people who know the case well as know the applicable laws and the way laws about terrorist groups in Germany, for example, have changed over time. These people just became an incredible resource, both in discussion but also in directly. Many folks I met at the Institute actually helped fact check portions of my book, which they volunteered to do to make sure I was getting things right. So it was just incredibly useful in my reporting. I would get in and I would probably have a stack of books on my desk that I checked out from the library. So I would just work my way through those. Often, I'm proficient in German, but not the quickest reader. So it would be reading through these books, looking for certain examples depending on the chapter I was writing in my own book, and trying to see what's out there. And then I would take breaks and really get coffee or lunch with people from the Institute to get their thoughts on what I was reading, what I was reacting to. And so, yeah, I think it was really a combination of, reading, some writing, and then just those invaluable conversations. Uh, One conversation I won't forget was with Jörg Arnold, Dr. Jörg Arnold, and he, has a long history of studying not just the NSU case, but studying courts and how they determine these sorts of things in Germany. So, that was incredibly useful speaking with him. I also remember I gave a presentation about my research to the Institute, and I had so much feedback after that from people who had maybe seen me around the halls, but wasn't really sure what I was doing. Maybe they had heard I was doing the NSU, but they didn't know that I was a journalist or what a journalist does. So I kind of outlined my journalistic approach, and that just led to a whole bunch of subsequent conversations with researchers who were very interested also to learn from me about how a journalist approaches a topic like this as opposed to maybe a legal scholar or an academic. I think the Max Planck Institute Fellowship for Journalists and Residents is an incredible opportunity for those journalists who are trying to do reporting on Germany, but they need the time and the resources to do so. You may not even know how badly you need it until you go. It wasn't until I got to the library and exhaustively searched it and found dozens of books that I didn't even know existed on this case that and these books became integral to my project. So I think for those journalists who are trying to, write for an audience outside Germany, especially to have this sort of engagement with a staff of German researchers who are the experts in their field, be it criminal law and whatnot in Freiburg or international law in Heidelberg, where I did residencies. It's really transformational, and you can't really even anticipate all the ways it'll transform your research until you do it. As a journalist, I couldn't help but becoming curious about the research that many people were working on. I ended up learning about sociology and actually doing an article about the VR Crime Lab, a project of the, criminology department. And so, also it turns out that my residencies at the Max Planck Institutes in Freiburg and Heidelberg led to a bunch of story ideas as well as that I didn't even have going into it. And as far as the future, ever since finishing my residency, I was able to go and finish writing my book. It was published last year and kind of reviewed in a number of places. And it's now available across the world, including in Germany. It's called Look Away in the United States is the title. In the UK, in the German version, it's called White Terror. And it's, a far-right campaign to rid Germany of immigrants. So I'd encourage you to check out the book. But basically, I've gone on to, that book helped me get a teaching position that I currently hold, teaching journalism at Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism in New York, where I'm speaking with you from today. And so, yeah, I mean, that experience really helped me earn the sort of qualifications I needed for what I wanted to do in the future, which is teach. But now I'm both an educator, a journalism educator, and a freelance journalist. So I spend some of my time teaching the next generation how to do magazine writing, how to do narrative writing, which is what I used in my book, and how to report on refugees and global migration. And then I spend the rest of my time still reporting in the field in Germany, East Africa, and sometimes Haiti. One of the best things about living in Freiburg was just access to nature. I normally was based as a journalist in Kenya, where I could go on safari or go hiking or climbing or to the coast. And I was surprised that, in Freiburg, I lived just outside the city by a beautiful forest where I could go running and walking. I could actually walk to the Institute through the forest. And the views from the Wasserschlüssel in that forest were amazing. So, I mean, Freiburg is just a beautiful town. At the time I was there were all sorts of festivals and events going on, also talks at the university in town and other places. So it holds a special place in my heart, and it was a great place to spend a couple months as well. When I was telling friends of mine who didn't do legal sorts of journalism that I was going to a legal institute or a couple of them for 4 months in Freiburg, people said that sounded kind of dull. But, when I got there, it turned out I was actually one of the least cool people in the room. I mean, researchers, not just because of their interests, but also their outside talents and interests. I mean, I remember meeting someone at the Institute who was like a skateboarder sponsored by Vans at age 13 or something like that. And I just remember being like, oh, I see, I'm the boring one here. And so for anyone who might have, reservations about, spending, 4 months among incredible legal scholars and whatnot. I mean, also just be prepared for getting to know people outside of their institute roles as well as very, very fascinating people.